The superconscious mind is one of the most fascinating and mysterious topics within this age. So today I'm going to be sharing what the superconscious is, and at the end of this video, I will share with you its relationship to the ego. In order for us to understand what the superconscious is, first we need to understand what consciousness is. Typically, we think of consciousness as some sort of byproduct or an epiphenomenon of brainwave emissions, electrical emissions from our cognitive functions. However, what consciousness actually is far more all-encompassing. Consciousness is awareness, but not just any type of awareness. At a macrocosmic level, awareness is all that exists. If all that exists is awareness, in essence, what that means is that all that exists is alive. This abstract concept of life that I'm talking about has best been able to be captured into words only as the mysterious concept we know as the Tao. It is nature itself. So nature and consciousness are intimately linked because at the highest level of awareness of existence, to be conscious is the nature of existence itself. And although we have tried many different ways to be able to conceptualize of this ultimate reality or this ultimate consciousness that I'm speaking of, the term the Tao is the best way to describe it because within that term itself, it knows that to define is to limit. To try to define the undefinable, to try to assign it an identity and a name or even a gender is to completely limit and not know its true nature. So the Tao is the best term to call it because it means nature. And when we're talking about the superconscious, what we're actually referring to is the nature of existence. Titles and terms can confuse us, but at the same time, they can also help us understand that when we're speaking about one concept in one setting, that can also just mean a different way of expressing that same concept, but it's done in a different setting. And there's never a better example than when it comes to what the superconscious is. Because one more way that I can describe the superconscious that would be more relevant is as the multiverse. The superconscious is the connective tissue of all of existence, exploring eternally its own nature. Not only would to define it to be to limit it, but it also has no beginning and no end. So the superconscious is the best way that we can describe the quantum field, or that we can describe the multiverse, or that we can describe existence, the very nature of eternity itself. So it wouldn't be correct to say that the superconscious is simply the electromagnetic field. However, it is expressed in this reality through the ether and through the electromagnetic field. Its nature is of pure, limitless potential, and as such, it utilizes the quantum field in order to condense itself, in order to compact itself into what organizes each reality and our reality. Once this reorganizing and structuring begins to occur, that's impacting what we know as the subatomic level of reality. And the subatomic level of reality exists within the entity or within the domain that we call the subconscious. So there's layers to this. The conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the superconscious mind all play different roles in a collaboration. This collaboration, being as important as it is, goes by many names. But if we look at the superconscious as being the generator of the entire experience of eternity and self-awareness that is expressed in this reality as ether, the quantum field, or simply put, the electromagnetic field. And if we regard after that the subconscious, the organizer, the one that structures the superconscious and plays the role of the middleman to our conscious mind. If we look at that as the operator, since it is operating the system by synthesizing, by managing, by relaying, by projecting, and by retrieving all of the information that now will then become condensed and available as the conscious mind, which would be the destroyer. Why would the conscious mind, why would the ego be called destroyer? Well, if the superconscious mind is generating the experience and the subconscious mind is operating the experience, and the conscious mind is actualizing the experience, meaning that the conscious mind, the self, the ego, is the manifestation, is the end product, the final product of what was created, then that is to destroy all other possibilities of what that could have been. Because to create something is to define it, and to define it is to destroy all other possibilities of what that could have been. So you have the generator, operator, and destroyer. That goes by the acronym God. The superconscious is the generator, and the primary definition of what it means to generate is to change the expression of energy from one state to another state, to manipulate energy in one form into another, active, viable form of energy. Mainly, what it means to generate is to transform energy into gas. So in this case, the superconscious is the fundamental reality of pure potential, and it generates this pure potential into an active state. Now, remember how I said to generate is to change into gas? Well, the big revelation here when it comes to the superconscious is that plasma is gas. And plasma is the substance that gives life, that animates our reality. Not only does it animate our reality, it is what nourishes and gives rise to the ether. So, if I had to sum up what the superconscious is in one word, it would be dynamic. Because behind the force of generating is dynamic activity that transforms emptiness into form. It collapses possibilities into actuality. The fundamental nature of reality is to eventuate. So let me break this down. The superconscious can best be described as the concept that we know as the Tao, only because the Tao is the term that has the most respect for the elusive and mysterious nature of generating all that is, which we know as the multiverse. Not only does it generate, but that generation is expressed in this reality as the electromagnetic waves that create particles. And to be in the form of a particle means to have collapsed all other possibilities of what that could have been in order to define it as such particle, whatever that might be, whether it be particles that create a person, or particles that create a car, or particles that create a house. All of these different manifestations could have been anything, but once they turned into a solid state that the particle represents, that meant was to take away and to strip from them all other possibilities. And by doing so, it became what is. It became what was actualized. And that's all the ego is. The ego isn't the destroyer because it's a negative being. The ego is a destroyer because all other potential, all other possibilities got narrowed in through the subconscious and then materialized into actuality until it became that boundary that creates that perspective that we know as the ego. Can the ego be inflamed and can it act absolutely absurd? Sure, happens all the time. But the ego in and of itself is not a bad guy and it's not a negative being. It's what the superconscious wanted to condense into physical form, into a particle solid state, in order to actualize its own manifestation of awareness. As the physical representation of the superconscious, we consist mainly of water. There is a very good reason why we consist mainly of water. If we look at the element of water as having both a physical representation and therefore, due to the law of correspondence, it must have a metaphysical representation as well. The metaphysical representation of what we know as water is actually what is known as the astral waters. And the astral waters is just a really ancient way of saying the electromagnetic field, or better yet, the ether. So we are the manifestation of the ether, which is known in this reality as the superconscious, and its corresponding element isn't air, it's actually water. Now, if you'd like me to geek out and make its own video where I'm talking about the alchemical property of water and its connection to mercury, let me know in the comments and I will make a separate video going deeper into that. I hope any of this made sense. Literally, like even just 1% made sense. But if not, your kids are gonna love it. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for higher dimensional guidance through spiritual awakenings. See you next time.